Okay. So my name's Kate, and I, generally typically have pretty conservative views. I'm from Texas, so mostly everyone down here does. And it's just kind of the way I was raised. And then when I came to college, I met a lot of people with kind of differing views, and it just reaffirmed what I believe in. So yeah, that's me.
Okay. I'm Plum. I'm from Mass, so like our views are probably gonna be different because I'm from Mass. And like Mass is like notorious for being like way, way too liberal. Um, I wasn't born in this country. I came here when I was like 5. Once my dad got his citizenship, then he sent for us over here. Except that's like totally unrelated. I just wanted to say where I was born. All right. So is there like a topic that you want to talk about first?
I went through the list we talked about on Instagram, and the first one, was we said transgender issues, which I'm fine to start with that. How do you want to do this? Do you want me to say kind of what I think, and then you say what you think, and then we kind of just go back and forth?
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
Okay, so this hits home to me because I actually have a cousin who is transgender. And I, to me, every cell in a transgender person's body is the gender of the cell that they, are assigned at birth. So if you're a male who wants to be a female and you go through and you have hormones, as far as I'm concerned, you're a male. You have male cells through and through, with the exception of, some of your sperm cells.
Oh, I'm sorry. Continue.
So, so that's one thing. Another thing, I have a problem with the transgender movement is that they they want to dictate what we call them. They and I think it is it's starting to infringe upon our freedom of speech. If someone wants to be called, those her, those aren't even real words to me. And when someone starts to control what they want me to say, I do think that is an infringement on freedom of speech. And then the last thing I'll say is that they have this whole idea of, well, when straight people and, people who aren't transgender, cisgender people, when they start using my pronouns and, they start to accept, what I am, they think that everything's going to be peachy for them and everything will be fine. And that's not true. They have a whole other can of worms to deal with. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that there's like a whole another can of worms that they will like have to deal with, like even after the whole like gender pronoun like switch that like happens in their family. Um, I don't know. Like for me, it was really weird growing up because my dad is like really like in my country, like being gay and all these other things like was definitely like not okay. Um, and I've only met one person who was trans. I think that like for me, it doesn't really affect me in any way. So I don't think I don't think it's a problem because like if somebody's gonna go do that and like assign themselves like a new gender, like it's probably not gonna have an effect on me. I do think that it definitely like breaks social norms, but I feel like within the like environment and like the community of transgender people, there's a lot of suicide rates, being thrown out, sexual assault, those kind of things that aren't being taken seriously. So I don't know. As long as for pronouns, I don't I don't know. I don't really care too much. If like I don't know. I call everyone girl and guy and like whatever like according to how they want. I don't know. I know about the Z ones, but nobody really like says that stuff really too much over here.
Yeah. You said that, you don't think it affects you. I think that it starts to affect other people when we see this group of people, their suicide rates are skyrocketing. Their suicide rate right now is at 40%, which, is only comparable to suicide rates of Jews in concentration camps. That's the only group that we can compare rate to. And I think that is very I think that shows that there is definitely mental illness going on. I think that these people need to, you know, they need help. They need to be institutionalized. They need to work through this. You know, because that high of a suicide rate is alarming, and that's telling of something else that's going on. And then the other thing, so I think it does start to affect society as a whole when you have this whole big group of people, you know, killing themselves and, you know, feeling so depressed and like they don't even want to live anymore. And then the other thing, you know, again, the reason, you know, I'm against it is I feel like the other way it affects me is because you know, it's almost like they're like forcing it on me. You know, you have to use my gender pronoun. You know, and if you don't, you're a bigot, and you know, you're, you know, a transphobe, and you know, that's not what it is. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with what you're doing. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
I could definitely see how like the really high suicide rates and stuff would like show a problem. I think that's more related to depression, because depending on who the person is, they won't really commit suicide. I actually follow a comic artist who's trans, and she kind of like talks about how her life was hard transitioning, and with her parents like not getting the pronouns right, and her just kind of like taking time. So I don't know like exactly like how everyone does it, but I feel like for me, from what I've seen, it seems like for pronouns it's like a little bit more lenient, but depending on who you meet, because obviously some people are going to be more fiery and feisty than others, and other ones
Yeah,
will be like it's fine.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and like I saw a study recently that like after gay marriage was legalized, there was like lower suicide rates amongst the LGBT. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if just more like knowledge acceptance would like help lower the suicide rates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. You know, I think again, I think it's a problem. I don't know necessarily that I believe it's a problem of, you know, acceptance. I think it's a problem, at least in the transgender community. I don't know that it's a problem of acceptance. I think it's a problem of mental illness. Again, I think that these people, you know, it's a, you know, it's psychologically draining. You know, when you go through something like this and you think, you know, like if I were to be like, oh my gosh, I'm a dude in a girl's body, you know, that'd be just psychologically exhausting, you know. And I think gender dysphoria, gender identity disorder, I think that goes hand in hand with mental illness. And I think we're glorifying mental illness in the media, and I think we're just treating it the wrong way. I think these people need help. They need to be institutionalized, and I don't think they need to be glorified as, you know, heroes or courageous. Yeah.
Okay. I don't really have anything else to say about that. I definitely could like understand where you're coming from and stuff like
Yeah. I'm looking for our next topic.
that.
So I don't remember what it was.
Do you want to do feminism next, a travel ban, Dakota Access Pipeline, or Black Lives Matter?
Let's just go in order. We can do feminism now.
Okay. So
Okay.
so you can start with your experience with feminism overall, and then like what you like think like the goal overall is.
Yeah. Okay. So my experience with feminism, I've had two very different experiences. You know, my mom, she has always been a self-proclaimed feminist when I was growing up, you know, and I was like, yeah, you know, like women, you know, like women empowerment, you know, let's go. You know, she raised 4 kids by herself while getting a PhD. You know, I have a lot of respect for her. Um, However, I think feminism today is a lot different than what it used to be. I think feminism today is a lot of, so honestly, I think that I don't the gender pay gap. I mean, no economist takes it seriously. I can talk about I can talk more about the gender pay gap in a second, but I think that it's more of like I don't like we're equal as far as I can see. I don't ever feel like I'm you know, at a lesser advantage advantage than my male counterparts. I feel like I can do anything they can, if not better on some things. However, we are two different, we're wired very differently, men and women are. So, there are going to be things that women are better at, and there are going to be things that men are better at, and that's just how it is. But I don't see any inequality going on with men and women. So if you can, tell me areas, that you see inequality, like I'm happy to listen and talk about it. But
I wanted actually you to also elaborate about your views on rape culture in the U.S. Oh, that's just my calendar. Ignore that.
okay. Yeah, rape culture. So people say, there's the Amber Rose slut walk protesting rape culture. There's a lot of movements going on protesting rape culture in the US. I don't think we have a rape culture in the US. People like men at work, if you so much as make a rape joke, make a sexual joke, you get fired. You're reprimanded. Rapists who are reported, they go to jail. They're even in jail, they're ostracized. They get beat up. They can't even be with the other prisoners. Men who commit sex crimes that are in jail, they are in danger from the other inmates. So I don't think rape is glorified. I don't think we have a rape culture here. I think you can go to other like foreign countries like Syria, Saudi Arabia, and then you will see a real rape culture where men can rape and get not even have a slap on the wrist. They get away with it. That's what I think about rape culture. I don't think it's prevalent in the United States.
Okay, hold on. I just lost something. Because I didn't want to just. Oh God, did I break it? No. Okay. I like said something and I thought I broke it. Okay, there we go. So I definitely can understand like how like I definitely find that in movements that even I'm a part in, people tend to like splinter off and like the movement just becomes chaotic after a certain point, and then that's like usually when I'm like I'm gonna go. So I definitely see that a lot with feminism, with different people, like different like celebrities have different views on it versus like politicians having different views on it, and I just feel like it's so chaotic that like I don't even know if it like is like a like one thing anymore. But at the same time, I guess like movements could go for other like overall like arching goals. So with like the pay gap and stuff like that, there's like usually like the Department of Labor will like put out like some stats about like average earning between like genders and stuff like that. And so like when I looked at that, like the men were making working at full-time wages for a week, white men were making $995, while white women were only making 778. And I feel like because of that average, I'm a bit confused because it's so much lower, even though we'd be like working in similar fields essentially. So do you want to comment on that? And then later on we can talk about assault.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Something that I've heard a lot of conservative speakers talk about is the gender pay gap. That gap, it exists because of the decisions made in the workplace. So if you're a man and you have a family, and your daughter has a ballet recital that night, you're more likely than the mother to skip the recital and stay late and work overtime at your job to advance in your career. Mothers, however, and women, they're more maternal. They have those instincts. They're more likely to take off of work and go see their daughter in that ballet recital. They're more likely to take more vacation days, more sick days. It's all about decisions made in the workplace. If you works just as much as a man, doesn't take any days off, stuff like that, then I'm confident that she'd be making as much as the man would. Also, another thing, if the gender pay gap, were real, then why wouldn't companies be hiring women all over the place so they could pay them more? that were substantial, then, you know, we'd see, you know, way more female workers in a lot of different industries because their employers could pay them less. So yeah.
I actually read a book by a woman, and it's like on my shelf, and it's called Lean On, and it's like about her, like, it's for graduates who are going into the workplace. And she was actually like experiencing the same thing where like she was working, but she was getting paid less. And like she could visibly see it. I feel like also that's kind of like the whole thing with like saying like women will take off like more time is like kind of generalizing women. And like if it's in that case, I feel like if women, no, what am I trying to say? I feel like if people are taking off days and like not staying late to work, then overall they should be deducted, like just that person instead of people getting paid less. So I don't understand really why the average is so much different. Like that's like a $200 or so average like difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're saying, you know, you don't know why the individual's pay would just get deducted. It's because it's not just one individual. It's women across the board who are taking off work. So as an average, when you add up all those numbers, women are getting paid less because it's not just one woman who's taking off. I mean, it's a lot. And, you know, and generalizations and stereotypes typically exist because they are true or they have been true at some point. You know, maybe not now, but, you know, they have been. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Okay.
Did you
So, huh?
touch on rape culture? What you thought about rape culture?
Yeah. Okay. So for rape culture, I feel like that's a very like complicated kind of situation because there's a lot of like different information out there. Well, like one thing that stuck out to me a lot during the whole like the bathroom crisis with like trans people wanting to use like the bathroom they want to was that a lot of people were like, oh, they're gonna go rape our children. But like statistics show that like a rapist is more likely to know you and be like a close friend, family member, or like a boyfriend. And so that's like, I feel like for me, rape culture is like the misinformation and the dismissing of sexual assault victims. And like, definitely it doesn't happen across the board, but I found some information from the Bureau of Justice, and they did like some info, like they did like a survey to like look at where like sexual offenders are, and they were like some of them just got like out of like 2,000 or so, like 100,000, no, 200,000, 100,000 ended up just on probation, like, and then like less than like 10,000 ended up in local jails, and then like a little bit less than 100,000 ended up on probation and then parole and stuff like that. And I feel like with those kind of stats, it kind of seems like there's not actually justice being shown to these people. And like with things like the Steubenville rapes that I think I mentioned when we were talking earlier, the football players were told that like, oh, like it was just a mistake, or like they did nothing wrong, and like people were coming out to protect them. And I feel like when somebody does something awful like that, like it should be in our nature to not protect them. But I see that a lot with athletes and like singers, like where they commit crimes against women, but they like totally get away with it. And I just think that's like kind of crazy for me.
Yeah. So on those statistics you just read, or you just told me, so that was for sexual assault, right? Is what you said? It just said sexual assault in the study.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that a lot of different, you know, kinds of sexual assault, and I think you have to look at each case specifically to determine, you know, the punishment. So, you know, so, and I'm not saying that rapists, you know, have justice handed to them. I'm not saying that by any means, because a lot don't. But I think that when you're looking at specific cases, the punishment will be harsher or more or less depending on what kind of sexual assault happened. If it was, actual rape, or if it was, he ran up behind me in a dark alley and like grabbed my butt, like I don't know why I just said that. Okay. But so I think that comes into play a lot too. About the the football players and the celebrities and stuff. There are people that come out and defend them, and a lot of them do get off scot-free, and that's not okay. But there's always going to be, when you hear a name like that, you hear, I don't know if you know much about Baylor. Baylor University down here in Texas is having a lot of sexual assault scandals. All the football players are, and when you hear about Baylor, you think like, oh, ugh, like, and my little sister, she wanted to go to Baylor, and she heard about all those sexual assault scandals going on, and she was like, no way, not going there anymore. So I think even if they don't get in trouble, which it does happen, I think there is still kind of a negative outlook on these people, and a negative connotation when you think about them. So whereas in other countries this isn't even talked about, like, it's like the guy raped someone, okay, it's over, like I think that is rape culture to me, when they don't even get in trouble, there's no negative connotation, they rape someone and then it's over.
So what makes you think those kind of countries like just let people get away with that? Because I have a friend from Kuwait, which is like part of like the Middle East, and like they have very low crime rates there. And the one person who did get caught doing that, like, went straight to jail, and like she would go to Saudi Arabia for weddings and stuff like that, and it would still be safe and things like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the culture there. We're talking about rape culture, but yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the culture. A lot of those countries, they are very strict. They really believe very devoutly in Islam, which Islam is fine. ISIS bad, Islam good, but that's a different thing. And there's that whole Sharia law thing going on in the Middle East, which basically condones the assault of women. It normalizes it, and I think that culture is so deeply instilled there that I think that's a big part of it. I can't speak much on that because I've never been to any of those countries, but from what I've read and learned about in history and geography classes, that's all I can really say about that, or at least that's what I think. It all has to do with Sharia law and just the culture there.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like Sharia law really isn't something that like is like actively enforced, and the women over there are having their own movements. So for me, like, yes, there are problems there, but I feel like because we live in this country, it's more our job to take care of ourselves and our country and protect our women and children or men who are getting assaulted. So I definitely
Yeah.
see like your point. It's just those women have like their own thing that they're doing. And you know about those Indian women that go around and like beat up men with bats if they rape somebody, right? Hilarious. Hilarious. Oh God. Whenever I'm mad about stuff like Brock Turner this summer, I'm just like, just remember the Indian women are probably beating somebody up right now with rocks, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, they're funny. Yeah, I'm not by any means saying we should be condoning rape here, sexual assault here. And I get what you're saying about, yeah, we live in this country, so we need to be focused on this country. I just don't think of this country as rape culture when you look at other countries. That's all.
Um, so travel ban next, yes.
Yes.
All right. So let me
Okay.
know what you think.
Well, huh?
Let me know what you think. Or do you
Okay.
want me to
Okay.
go? I don't care.
Yeah. So the travel ban. I first call it a ban. I'd call it a travel moratorium. Uh, we I think that Donald Trump is very, very set on he's got this really paranoid mind, with terrorists and all that stuff. I'll say that right out. But I think that I think that he has America's. I think he has. What am I trying to say? I think he has a good heart when it comes to, I think he has. Okay, I think he has our best interests at mind with this travel ban. I don't think he's trying to be evil and say, or xenophobic and say, hey, no, no one can come to our country. I think that he is very paranoid about terrorist issues, and I think that that's why this travel moratorium is in place. And then a lot of people, you've probably seen this too, a lot of people talk about, during Obama's terms as president, he placed a travel moratorium for 6 months. Where was everyone freaking out back then? It just seems like, and Trump's moratorium is only for 3 months. And now, it just seems like it's blown up just because it's Donald Trump. When it happened with Obama, I didn't even hear about it when Obama did it. And I think that I'm not going to say there isn't a threat to the United States. I think there are threats to the United States from those 7 countries on that travel ban. And right now, I'll say, that the federal judge overturned Trump's decision. Right now, if there are bad people out there who truly want to come to the United States, they're doing it right now. They're pouring in right now while this ban is overturned. Because
Oh my God, what's exploding? I'm so sorry.
This girl's weekend.
Oh God. Okay, there we go.
I think that Trump's going to do everything he can to get this travel ban back in place. And I think if there are threats to the United States, they know that, and they're going to come right now. So I think right now we're in a kind of dangerous spot with the judge overturning that travel ban. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Okay. Okay, let's see. What are my thoughts? So about the whole travel situation, for me, I get that he's very paranoid and wants to keep people safe.
Yeah.
I just think it doesn't make sense, the countries that he picked, because even with the 9/11 attacks, people from there came from Saudi, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and those ones aren't on the list. And I'm pretty sure ISIS started in Afghanistan or Pakistan, so I'm not really sure why he picked the countries that he did. And Yemen wasn't even on there when they attacked one of his Trump towers back in 1996. So I understand why people are criticizing it, because it kind of seems like he picked and chose at random. And I really feel like if he had security in mind, he would be focusing on the countries that have attacked us in the past.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you there. There has to be a reason that he chose those countries. I don't know the reason. They clearly they are they are heavily populated with Muslims.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Clearly they are heavily Muslim populated countries, and he has more information than I do, so I don't think he just randomly picked 7 countries. I think that he CIA with him, he has the FBI, they have more information on what's going on in these countries than we do. So I think yeah, that's what I think. I can't speak to why he chose those countries, but I do think that he does have our best interest at heart, no matter how he goes about things, how clumsily he goes about things. Yeah.
Okay, I feel like my biggest concern is that people who are already citizens are not being allowed into the country and stuff. And as somebody who's gone through the whole process of getting a visa and getting all the other paperwork, those processes are very extraneous to me, long time. So I feel like if they're at least like US residents, like just let them in. Like I can understand wanting to control the amount of refugees that come to our country, since we're also kind of like our economy is still like meh.
Yeah, I do not disagree with you on that. It is sad when you see, someone not being allowed back into the country when they're already citizens. I agree with you on that. That's one thing. Yeah, I do disagree with Trump on that. How, however, I think in his mind, it's, well, they were in that country. Why were they in that country? What's going on? What were they doing over there? I just think he's so paranoid. But yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you on that completely. This brings to mind, uh, you're from a foreign country. Would you want to talk about illegal immigration in Mexico and what's going on there?
Yeah, we could. Oh wait, do you want me to talk about my experience, or I was like,
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
okay. So basically, I came here from Congo, which is like near Central Africa, the Democratic Republic. We were having civil unrest or whatever. Well, my dad came here, and then he got money to like pay for the rest of us to come here. And so when like for me, when people talk about illegal immigration and people coming from Mexico, I think like obviously Trump used that to like target a certain like people, and like we know it's not just Mexican people who are coming here illegally. I just think from my own personal experiences that the people who come here illegally usually will like come by plane with a visa and then like overstay their visa, because the people I've met who are here illegally, like that's how they got here, and that's like how they like have been able to stay, because once they have a visa, like no one's gonna check on them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for
Okay.
like oh,
Were
I was
you?
just
Did
gonna
you want?
say the whole process of becoming like a citizen and stuff is also really expensive, and it's very complicated. So if you're somebody who may not know English, you're not gonna have like an easy time coming here, even if you like do come legally, and you're gonna have like all these different things. So like for my dad, I think we spent like, oh my gosh, funniest story. We spent like a couple $1,000s trying to get me, my sister, and my brother a citizenship, and we came here and we had like green cards or whatever. And it turns out I was a citizen. I like stepped on this like country because of my dad. So I was like automatically naturalized, but they didn't tell us. So like it's just such a pain. It's such a
Oh
pain.
gosh!
Yeah. I've been a
Wow.
citizen for like 14 years, and they just told us like last year that we didn't have to like do everything that we just did.
Oh my gosh, that's annoying.
They need to like streamline that process and make it more clear for people.
Yeah. Okay. So, I am all for immigration. But it's just, again, you probably know what I'm gonna say. If it's illegal, then I'm not for it, because the like you said, there are people who aren't from Mexico who come here from foreign countries and just overstay their visa. Um, but I think that since Mexico is right there, they're right next to us. You know, there's their countries in such poverty. I feel like there's a lot of them. Crossing the border and sneaking over here, doing whatever. And, like, just like your dad, that's awesome. He did everything the right way. He became a legal citizen. So if your dad can do it, I don't see why those other immigrants can't. Yeah, it's going to take hard work. Yeah, it's gonna take a while, but that's what America's about. We're about working hard, and then seeing that being paid off. That's the American dream. So that's my take on it. And then another thing, it's if you're an illegal immigrant, that's a disadvantage for you. If you come over here and you're illegal, you'll get employed by someone and they will pay you, you know, way less than minimum wage because you're an illegal immigrant, and you know they don't have to pay you minimum wage. You know, so they're also being taken advantage of by American citizens. You know, whereas if they got their citizenship and they did everything the right way, you know, that wouldn't happen to them. So yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from. Do you want to move on to the Dakota Access Pipeline?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I read about this. I didn't know too much about it when you asked me about it, so I went and I read a little. So okay, you start on this one, so I can kind of just go off of what you say.
Okay. For me, I'm like a really like the environment's like very important to me. So when this was like kind of being proposed, I was very concerned. Just because I don't know, just because of like living where I lived, like the environment was such a big part of like my life as a whole. So now being here, I kind of like took that over. So for the pipeline, one of the big things that people don't want is because it's like near the tribe, they don't want it to like damage the water and stuff like that. And there's a lot of different stats taken by the government, like their transportation Bureau of Transportation, I think, where they're talking about the incidents and the explosions and the like leaks and like since like 1998, I think about 1,000 people have died, and it's not as bad with the rail cars to me. Those are human error. Like when they're driving, that's when like problems will come.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I just contaminating a water source, I think, is a really big risk to take, especially with how like the earth is going
yeah,
right now.
yeah. Okay, so what I you know I this what I've read, what I remember reading is that you know this could create, you know, anywhere between 8,000 to like 12,000 jobs. You know, so this will help people get out and get employed. This, you know, it's more, you know, it does. I did read that, you know, it could contaminate the water supply for that Indian tribe. But also on the flip side, it's this pipeline is more environmentally friendly than and more safe than transporting by train and the other means that they're using. So I thought that was a pro. You know, I don't know much about, you know, and honestly, I don't have a very strong opinion on this. I kind of just went and read the pros and cons. And so and I kind of figured you'd be against it, but so I just kind of went and read about the pros so I could just bounce those off of you. But yeah, that's what I read about it, was that it could actually help the environment in the long run, and that you know, it would create thousands of jobs for people. And the only downside, you know, I couldn't find any pros for, was that Indian tribe, that, you know, they'd basically be out of luck for on their water source.
Yeah, I kind of like I feel like I definitely understand like why we need those resources. I just wish we could do like people driving instead, because it would still create jobs. Actually, you'd probably create like more jobs, but like we'd be able to see the accidents. Because the thing I don't like about pipelines is like we don't really know it's leaking until it's too late. So I
Yeah.
just get really concerned about people's health. But like obviously everyone does. So
Yeah.
uh,
um,
did you want to go on to Black
okay.
Lives Matter?
Yeah, I think that's our last topic. Um, okay, so I the campus, the college I go to, it we're a Christian school, and you know, we're very diverse. It's actually a pretty diverse campus. And so there are Black Lives Matter speakers who come speak to us either during chapel, or you can go watch them on your own time. What what I don't understand is, and maybe you can explain this to me. I don't understand what Black Lives Matter is trying to accomplish. I mean, what's the end goal? Help me with that.
Oh, okay. I feel like there are like a few different goals. One of them is to, like, the one that's always in the news is about like people being shot while being unarmed. Um, they also focus on education, so they're trying to get like Black young people to try to take school more seriously, not go down like the I want to be a football player, like a rap star kind of thing. I forget their goals actually. Let me just go on their site because like those are the only ones I remember. But yeah, they kind of have like a few different goals. So let me look at that.
Okay. I mean, I'm all for that second one you said. I mean, that doesn't sound bad at all.
Oh, also they're like super exclusive. I tried to join and they were like, no. I was like, what do you mean?
Why?
They
What?
like, I don't know. They like to like look through people and be able to like know who they are kind of. So like I think there's like an interview process, kind of like a job. So that's like weird to me. So what are they for? Uh I don't know. They have really cute emojis. Restoring the justice system, just like collective things, bringing the Black community back. It's queer affirming. It's made by two queer Black women. So that's like one of the things. Just kind of like to add diversity to movies, film, different things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think, you're talking about, unarmed Black people getting shot. That is an issue. Um, I think that's happening. I think there is so much fear and, tensity between the Black community and cops now that you never know what's going to happen. So I feel like when a cop, you know, walks up on a Black guy, or a cop pulls over a Black guy, and the cop sees he's Black, instantly they go like into like the defensive, like they think of the worst possible scenario. And I think same for the Black person that's being pulled over. I think both parties get so scared because everything that's been happening in the news. And I think that it's a fear thing. I think both are just so afraid of each other, and always feel like they have to be on the defensive. I think that's a big problem. I think that I don't think that it's a racism problem. I don't think cops are racist. I don't think these cops who are shooting these Black guys are racist. I think there's just so much fear harboring there now because of all this stuff that's happening in the news and all these shootings we're seeing. I think that's a big problem. So and then what else did you say? What was another thing you said? I already forgot.
um, Promoting education, diversity in movies and film, queer acceptance,
Yeah. Okay.
stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that I think that encouraging the Black population to stay in school and want to go and get a career instead of like you said, being a rapper, a football player. I think that's great. That's amazing. I think that would help the community tremendously. um the thing about you know adding diversity, more Black people in movies, in the media, stuff like that. I'm not against that either. What I am against is when Black people will come out and openly target white people, like, and just say things that if white people said about Black people, there would just be uproar. So that's one thing I'm not okay with. It's almost like a double standard. Like, we can't say this about you, but that y'all can say it about us. Is I don't know. I think that's just kind of a double standard. And I think it needs to stop both ways. I don't think white people need to be saying any of that stuff. I don't think any other races need to be saying any of that stuff about any of us. I mean, that I don't know. That's just it. I don't know if you saw that MTV video dear white people. You know, it's stuff like that that just really hacks me off. Like, you know, if there was a dear black people video or a dear Mexican people video, you know, it would just be outrageous. So yeah, and in that video, what that video was, you know, criticized a lot, and it did end up being taken down. So, but yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Okay. I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts. So for the whole like, I guess we could talk about the whole like tension between like cops and like black men and women. This is like kind of like a thing that's like more like instilled into the black community like historically because of
Yeah,
how things were just from like after like I don't know, this is just like stuff that like gets passed down, like the fear, because like after reconstruction there was a fear of the police and just like other people in general because of how the treatment was. And even like in the 90s 80s, like I don't know if you heard of Rodney King. He got pulled over and he got like beaten by a bunch of cops and they like didn't even go to jail for it. Like they just kind of like got away with it. So like I feel like when there's like the tension, it's like that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure if I believe it or not, but Nixon's aide said that like one of the reasons they started the war on drugs was to like break up black communities. I'm not sure that if that aide was just slighted and wanted to get back at Nixon, but that is the way that it's been looking with like the war on drugs and different things like that. And like I feel like maybe now that more drugs are like being legalized, like we're gonna see like a definite shift in the black community. Yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, that's kind of like that's why like it's like that. And I definitely like I don't think that like I mean everyone's like racist though. Like it's just like you're gonna look at somebody who's not like you and you're gonna think like something about them based on like stereotypes and stuff like that. So I feel like with the way our culture is,
yeah,
with the way like media is and stuff like that, like what people are choosing to show, especially with like rappers, football players and stuff like that, like thinking that they're badass, they're not helping the cause because they're like reinforcing a stereotype that's like should have been dead and in
yeah,
so like that's why I like really like that Black Lives Matter doesn't want
yeah,
like people being rappers and football players because like that's gonna like kill their dream and then they're gonna have to find something else real quick. Like there's no point in any of
yeah.
that. For me, I did hear about the Dear White People commercial or like not the commercial, but like MTV thing. I didn't watch it because I was like MTV, like sometimes you push things too far. But there is like
Yeah.
a have you heard about the Netflix series that's gonna be called Dear White People?
Yes, I did hear about it. Hmm.
So that was also a movie that came out like a few years ago. And
I
so
watched.
you
Yeah,
watched it. Did you also watch
yeah.
Everybody Hates Chris? Because like the main character is every the kid from Everybody Hates Chris. It's super freaky.
Is it really? I
Yes.
didn't realize that.
He looks so weird, like with his hair and like he looks
Yeah, he
weird.
looked different.
He looks weird. Like
Yeah.
his nose got all like I was like, what happened to your face? But
Yeah.
yeah, like I feel like because that commercial, like the MTV thing came out at the same time as like the Dear White People came out, like it was like such a shitstorm. Like Netflix needed to like push back that because like there's no point in like offending people like on MTV's part. Like I didn't really what they were trying to make with that video. I feel like with Dear White People, the movie and like the show, it'll be more talking about like dumb everyday things that like people do. Cause like I definitely
Mhm.
relate to that because people just like make fun of me for my hair and dumb shit like that. And I'm like, grow up, kids. So I feel like that kind of stuff will be nice to like teach kids to like kind of like appreciate like each other and their differences. I wish that like every like race would come out with one to like just kind of like be like, hey guys, like this is how these things are happening. Cause like I love hearing about people's experiences. That's why I always watch documentaries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I did. I look forward to that series coming out because I'm gonna watch it. And, yeah, but but yeah. think we did pretty good. We talked about a lot of stuff.
This is like a full conversation here and no name calling.
Name calling, that was great. I'm not used to that.
That is highly reserved to my sister.
Yeah, me too. I get Instagram fights all the time. People start calling me names, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to engage with you anymore. So yeah, that was nice.
There's no point in name calling unless it's your sister. But my sister does some really dumb stuff. She tried to register to vote on registertovote.com, so now we just call her .com.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes I'm like, did we come from the same parents? Because I swear you're adopted.
Oh my gosh, that's how me and my little sister are. She's crazy. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad we did this. I'm glad I got to talk to you. It made me think.
Made me think a lot too. Thanks for coming and talking to me. No
problem. It was good.
All right, bye.
Bye.